We've been told that when Europeans arrived, they found red-skinned natives with feathers and bows, that the indigenous people were all one shade, one language group, one stereotype. But the explorers themselves told a very different story. The first Europeans to land on American soil wrote journals, letters, and reports, and many of those writings are still hidden in dusty archives, ignored by mainstream history. So what did they actually see? They saw black people, living in villages, organized in tribal nations. Free, Spanish explorers in the 1500s documented tribes in Florida and the southeast with dark skin and woolly hair. Not slaves, not immigrants, natives. Hernando de Soto wrote about encountering powerful communities of dark-skinned people in Georgia. Early French traders along the Mississippi described meeting tribes that looked African, not Asian. Even Benjamin Franklin once commented that the complexion of many native tribes resembled that of the Africans. So why were these accounts erased? Because the people they described didn't fit the story that was being built. A story where black people came later, where they were outsiders, where they could be denied land, status, and voice. Because they weren't original. If the world knew that black tribes had lived, traded, governed, and resisted on this land before Columbus, then the lie of "you don't belong here" would collapse. But it gets deeper. By the 1700s and 1800s, laws were passed to reclassify people. Tribes that were once recognized as native were suddenly listed in censuses as Negro, colored, or free person of color. Families who had lived on the same land for centuries lost everything, because the paper said they weren't Indian anymore. This wasn't just about racism. It was about removing legal claims to land. By rewriting who people were on paper, entire nations were erased with ink. Ask your elders. Ask your grandmother who said she was part Cherokee or Creek. She wasn't lying, she was remembering. But when she tried to get tribal status, the government told her she was black, not native, because the documents had been changed generations earlier. This is how history was stolen, not with guns, but with pens. The colonists saw the truth. They wrote it down, and then the system buried it, but those writings still exist. In journals, in archives, in the dusty corners of old libraries, waiting to be read again. Because once you understand that the first Americans weren't just brown, but black, in skin, in features, in culture, everything changes. In the next part, we expose how museums, governments, and elite institutions made sure that truth never made it to your classroom, because if you know who you are, you start asking for what's yours. You'd think if there were real evidence, bones, artifacts, skulls, tools, that proved ancient black people lived in America before Columbus, we'd all know about it. But we don't, because that evidence wasn't preserved. It was...
For Native Americans, their hair, especially the long hair, signified power. It was very sacred. It was a lot of spirituality within the hair itself. Represented strength. The tribe you were from, it connected to nature and the ancestors, different hairstyles, what rank you were in the tribes. It was cultural identity. It showed your achievements. The Mohawks come from the Iroquois Mohawk tribe. Warriors. They had the strip that signified strength and bravery, and sometimes they decorated with feathers. Then you had the two braids, which is very common in the native hairstyles, that signified harmony, togetherness, unity of the family, the natural world. The middle part is like the balance between two worlds, and they had adornments, jewels, and it meant protection and stuff like that. So in the Native American culture, hair was very important. As with the African American culture, the same thing happened to them. They were forced to cut their hair when they went to boarding schools. There's a heavy significance in braids within itself in both communities. My mom's family, they're Native and they're black. Hair was always important to my mom, and I never understood it until now. Now I'm like, okay, now I get it. When I went to go cut my hair, she came with me. Like, my mom was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I was just like, Mom, it's hair, it'll grow back. But to her, it was, it was major time. So imagine coming from two cultures where black natives is a real thing. it's like, whoa, where significance, our hair has so much significance, so much power. It was as if you're cutting, as if, Samson in the Bible, you're cutting off ties, you're cutting off your spiritual, your relationship. It's heavy. And then you have my dad, who comes from the Caribbean, and we trace back to Madam C.J. Walker, hot comb. So see, hair is significant. Black slaves would intermarry into the natives. Natives had open arms when they were trying to escape. They let them come into their communities. They were brothers. They got along very well. They connected. Like I said, my family walked the Trail of Tears together. The oppressors didn't like either, but sometimes they put the natives over the African slaves. And some of the natives, like the Cherokees, Choctaws, Chickasaw, they owned slaves. And that's where some of the mixing took place as well. Not only did they come into their communities and they accepted one another, they connected and they got along, they also had their own slaves, some of them, and they intermingled, and that's where some of the mixtures came from. So then when people say, I got Cherokee in my family, oh, believe them, because we're all mixed with something. So it could be very true that they have that mixture within them, that they kind of mix their culture. Not only did they mix cultures, but they work together to fight against the enemy, the oppressor. If they're not, there were a lot of black natives. A lot of you are descendants of black natives. A lot of you are descendants of natives and blacks. So that mixture is a real thing. There are a lot of people, Europeans also, who are mixed with native.
In 1900s, that word Negro came. Then in 1950s, that word color came. And in 1960s, that name black came. Afro came. Black came. You tell me one people. You tell me one people. You tell me one fucking people who has been reclassified this many times. You tell me one fucking people who has been reclassified this many times. You have never seen Native Americans, and I want you guys to understand this. If the Native Americans, if this land was taken from the Native Americans, they should have been putting them on the cotton fields. Why they didn't have them pulling cotton? Why they didn't have them pulling tobacco? Why they didn't have them pulling the sugar cane? Think about this. You didn't have to go to fucking Africa to get a people. You didn't have to go all the way to Africa to go get somebody. You're dealing with losing, dealing with unaliving yourself, with fighting people when you had people already here. Why would you go to Africa and all you did to the Indians, the Native Americans, all you did to the Native Americans was push them and made them leave their land? That's all you did them? You made them walk in the Trail of Tears? That's all you did them? Do you understand this stuff? Let me get these people out of here, because I ain't got time for you. I don't even know why y'all keep coming over here where you're not wanted. You can't tell me to be proud of something I've never been. You cannot tell me to be proud of somewhere I have never been. You cannot tell me to be proud of somewhere I have never been. You cannot do that. You cannot tell me to be proud of somewhere. I don't go, if I go to war, I go to war for this country. If I gotta run in the Olympics, I'm running to get a gold medal for this country. I don't go to war for no other country. I don't win gold medals for no other country. I don't beat your ass in boxing for another country. I don't play I don't get what you're talking about, sir. This country, the land of my land. And you ain't gonna tell me to be proud of Africa. The fuck I'm gonna be proud of Africa for?